Just before I turned 21, I started on my self-improvement journey. I dropped out of college, got my real estate license, and committed to living a life that I was actually passionate about. I didn't like what the system had on offer for us, the whole go to college, get some debt, get a 9 to 5 job that you're not passionate about, marry some girl, have a couple kids, and die. That life just was not exciting to me, and I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to that. And so I took some action and made some big steps to change my life, and now at 27 years old, I'm in a spot where I do work that I love, I make great money, I get to travel, I've built a good social life for myself, and I have a lot of freedom and control over my life. And I'm not gonna lie, guys, my 20s have been a bumpy ride. I've felt like a failure for most of it, to be honest. I've dealt with betrayal, women cheating on me, all the kind of stuff that we all deal with. And, I'm not a finished product either, but truthfully, I have accomplished a lot at this point. I feel proud of what I've done. And if I were gonna go tell my 21-year-old self some truths that could get him ahead in life, this video is what I would tell him. And if you're like me and you want more out of life, this video is gonna be a game changer for you. So let's get into it. Number one, everything is hard, stop running from it. So I spent a lot of time in my early 20s trying to find ways to make things easier. I had this sort of idea, I think, that it shouldn't be hard, or that there was an easier way out there. And this is just stupid, guys. And this is something that a lot of us do. It's something that is really a big plague in our society these days, I think, is this whole shiny object syndrome. And it comes in a lot of ways from the fact that the internet promotes all of these different ideas of get-rich-quick schemes, and it doesn't have to be hard, 6-minute abs, all this kind of stuff, how you can get everything fast and easy. But this just isn't how it is, guys. And you know it, because anything that you've accomplished in your life, it was hard. It took hard work. If you went and got some sort of skill set, you had to work hard, put in the time to get it done. If you got a great body, you had to show up to the gym and put in the work consistently over time. We understand this, and yet because we have this mindset of thinking things are going to be easy, we end up self-sabotaging and holding ourselves back, not being consistent with things. And I did this a lot. I would try different business ideas over and over again. I'd run into an obstacle, and then I'd just try the next thing. And it wasn't until I finally just confronted the idea that, listen, every single thing you try to do is going to be hard. And if you don't just suck it up and get through it and stop complaining about it, stop wishing it would be easier, you're never going to get what you want out of life. And the sad thing is, it's like almost every single time, the hard thing is what you need to do too. You might be looking at some sort of thing you want to do. Maybe it's, you're in your career, or you want to make a switch in your career, or maybe it's, getting in shape or talking to women, whatever it is. It's always that thing that's the hardest that is the thing you need to do. And it's the thing you're avoiding. If you want to get in shape, it's like you want to go find all these supplements and all these hacks, and I'll take creatine and all this bullshit, when in truth, you just need to go to the gym, bang some weights for an hour, and eat right. And that's the part you don't want to do. But you got to do that over and over again. And until you just confront that and accept it, you're not going to get the results you want. And it's like this with everything. And here's the thing. If you will just embrace the hard work, then it will get a lot easier. If you can just stop acting like it shouldn't be this way and just accept, okay, this is how it is, I'm just going to get this shit done, then all of a sudden it gets a lot easier. Number two, stop chasing women you haven't earned them yet. I think a good mindset when it comes to women, guys, is it's like getting paid well, it's like a great body, it's this thing you have to earn. And, because, and maybe even in the past it wasn't this way, but because of the world we live in today, women have become very similar to this. They are this thing that you have to become the kind of person that you can earn. And you might not like that, but it is what it is, And you can complain and check out of the system, but what does that get you? And so I spent a lot of my early 20s trying to position myself as an attractive guy. I would be like, how can I get this picture and this angle for a dating app? Or what's the line I could say, right? I'd be caught up on pickup lines. What's the thing I should text her? How often should I text her back? All this bullshit games. And then I just realized I'm doing all this stuff to try and look like an attractive guy instead of just being an attractive guy. And how do you be an attractive guy? You put in the work to become that man. You make yourself physically attractive. You get your career right. You build the mindset through the challenges that make you into the kind of man who is attractive to women. And it wasn't until I made myself into the kind of man that women actually wanted that I started to look back and see how all of that was bullshit. And so if I could tell my 21-year-old self something, I'd be like, listen, man, you're just not attractive. And if you just put in the work, you can get there. But right now, all the time you put in trying to look like an attractive guy, it's just going to be a waste. Seriously. So if you're not in great shape, if you're not making good money, if you're not in a good spot in your career, why are you bothering with women? Seriously, you're only going to get the scraps. You're not going to get what you really want. You're wasting your time on this shit. And every second you spend on that is a second you could spend getting better so that you could eventually get what you want. And then once you get to this point, all the stuff that we are told as young men to do to be attractive to women, it just naturally happens. Like, I naturally don't give a fuck if she texts me back. I naturally don't put up with any shit. I naturally carry myself like I deserve respect. I naturally take hours to text back because I've got shit going on. So none of it's a hack anymore. None of it's a game. I don't have to stage photos because I actually go do cool shit and get a picture of it for the dating app, right? All of the stuff that we put all this energy into faking like we're attractive men in our early 20s when we're just not there yet, it's just like all that stuff naturally happens once you make yourself that guy, and then you actually get the results you want to begin with. So just view women as this thing you got to earn. Just like a good career, just like a good body, it's this thing you got to put in the work to get. And if you have this mindset that you're entitled to them, you're going to be disappointed and you're going to feel like the world's screwing you over, but it's not. That's just the world we live in, and you can bemoan it and say it's not fair, but life doesn't care. Number 3, everything changes at 27. So there's nothing magical about the year 27. This is just when it has happened for me. A lot of other guys have mentioned this, but it's really like that mid to late 20s phase. You'll hit this moment where it's like things just start working easier, and it's like the women are more interested in you, your career's going well, you've gotten yourself in good shape, your mindset's a lot sharper, and it just feels like all of a sudden the world is a lot easier. And it's like you look back on your 20s, your early 20s, mid 20s, and you're just like, oh, like all of that was this sort of like tryout. It was like a preseason or something like that, you know? And I don't think we realize this as men that, you know, high school doesn't teach us anything really valuable, right? And so you're basically a beginner at the game of life once you graduate high school. And we feel like because we're, you know, adults, according to society, we should have this thing figured out, but it's just not the case. Like, you have no fucking idea what you're doing in your early 20s. You just don't, right? And like, you've got a huge ego at the time. I had a huge ego. I thought I knew how the game worked, and I just had to keep getting humbled until I eventually figured some of it out. You know what I'm saying? But you get to 27, around this age, and it's just like things start clicking, and it should be inspirational for those of you who aren't there yet, or if you're a late bloomer, just understand, like, if you give it the time, you're going to get to this spot where, like, life just starts clicking for you, and it becomes much easier. It's not like it becomes easy altogether. It's basically like you've just got enough experience. You've been through enough things to kind of understand how stuff works. It's like, you know, you've had a career and you've had shit go wrong in the career enough times to know how to navigate that. You've gone on enough dates to not look like a goofy guy on the dates. And you know how to carry yourself. You've gotten enough money up to where you can display that you're an attractive guy because you can dress well and you can go out and do fun things. Life just becomes a lot more fun. And all of a sudden, you know, there's a big trend online of telling guys that the system is out to get them. And it's very appealing to young men, and I understand it in a lot of ways because, I mean, I do agree with some of that stuff. But when you get to your mid to late 20s, all of a sudden you're like, the system really isn't as bad as we thought. It's just that you are at the bottom of the totem pole in your early 20s. You are getting the shit into the stick. That's just how it is. It's like this long hazing period. But then you get out of it and you're like, oh, I'm so glad I'm through that. Now life is great. And that's just kind of how it goes. Now, the thing with that is you have to put in the work to get to that period. If you've just been fucking around in your 20s, you've been lazy, you've been out drinking with your friends, getting a bunch of debt, working some job you don't care about, well then yeah, you're not going to get to experience this phase of life, and you're going to feel like life's screwing you over, but really it's your own damn fault because you've just been sitting around being a bum. You got to put in the work. It's a few years of just slogging through bullshit, but eventually you get to this point, mid-20s, late 20s, where just stuff starts clicking. And I think I'm really just at the beginning of this. I think it's going to get better and better. I think when I talk to you guys about this at 28, 29, 30, I'm going to be looking completely different in a completely different reality. And I'm going to have even more context to tell you, like, yes, this is true. You just got to keep putting in the work. And over time, it just gets easier and easier. The steps that you take get faster and faster. It's like at this point now, my life seems like it makes a pretty big step about once every 3 months. Whereas it used to take like 3 years to feel like I got anything. It would be like going from $0 in the bank account to $1,000 in the bank account was just this grind. And now it's just like money will just come in, right? And it's because you got the foundations done. You got the skill sets. You got yourself in the right position. You figured everything out. You sorted it out. And everything just starts compounding on itself as long as you do the work. But that first part is so hard. And just understand, guys, a rocket uses 90% of its fuel leaving Earth's orbit. And most things in the world are kind of like that. It's like poverty has a gravitational pull to it. You know, if you're trying to get out of being broke, it's like it takes so much force to get up some money. But once you get to this point where you've escaped the gravitational pull of poverty, it's like you can just kind of cruise at that point. And I have not reached that point, but you'll see it from people where they've got so much money and they've invested it correctly and their network is so strong that like it would be hard for them to lose money because they'll just make so much of it. They're such a valuable person with such a great network, with so many assets. It's just hard for them to go broke at that point. It's like this with women. When you have no girls interested in you, getting that first one's hard. Once you get the first one, she's got friends, now you've got connections, it just multiplies out from there. It's like this with everything, seriously. And so just understand, it is hardest at the beginning and it's the least rewarding. And it's like this barrier you got to get over. And if you can get over it, which 99% of guys can't, you get over it and then you get to see all the good stuff in life. And it gets easier and easier to get results. Number 4, talking about your goals won't make them happen. I used to obsess over goal setting and vision boards and writing down affirmations of my goals and all this bullshit. And I just realized like all this talking got me nowhere. It's just a giant waste, guys. Like, I spent years obsessing over this shit. And I was like, oh, like, if I just write it down, like, the reason I'm not achieving my goals is because I haven't gotten clarity on them. I haven't spoken them into existence. All that manifestation bullshit. Like, I spent so much time obsessing over that. And then I just finally realized, I'm like, it doesn't matter. As long, it's just action. That's all it is. And I get fired up about this one because it wasted a lot of my time. And if someone had just smacked me in the face and be like, dude, you just have to take action. It doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter if you say shit. Saying shit is just genuinely a waste of time. Just do. Action, action, action. I would have gotten places much faster. And so I just want you to understand this. Like, I don't even really write goals anymore, truthfully. I just kind of go in a direction. I'm like, I want to go that way. I want to make more money doing this thing. I want to have more women in my life, so I'm going to go do this thing. I want to be in a little bit better shape this way, so I'm going to do this thing. But I don't have specific goals. Because truthfully, you never hit them anyways. Like, how often have you actually hit, like, a specific goal? Like, nobody really does because the world changes. You'll set a 12-month goal, you get 6 months in, and your entire life has changed in different ways, and now the 12-month goal doesn't even make any sense. I've done this with business. I've done this with all kinds of stuff, you know? It's like, at the end of 2024, I had in mind that I was going to be competing in a boxing match towards the end of 2025. I'd still like to do it hypothetically, but my career's been picking up and I've been busy with all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I have to prioritize my career because this is like the prime earning years for me. I'm stepping into that. So as much as I'd love to go compete and box and all this kind of stuff, I got to make sure I put first things first. And so this goal that I had suddenly is like out the window. So it's like, what was the point of the goal to begin with? It's just kind of prioritize, set a direction, and just take action, and good shit will happen. So enough with the whole like writing down goals and telling everybody your goals like that matters. It doesn't matter. Number 5, your 20s are for grinding, not for showing off. So, you know, we all deal with this in our early 20s. We feel like we're supposed to be winning. We feel like everybody else around us is winning, and we have this desire to show off. But this is a huge trap, and I've always said, trying to impress other people is your biggest expense. Because you'll be 23 years old, you finally get like a couple $1,000 in the bank, and the first thing you want to do is get some car to flex, or you want to get some nice clothes, or do all this shit to try and look like you're ahead in life, and it just ends up being this thing that gets you stuck and you can never get out. Don't try to impress people in your 20s, especially your early 20s. You know, as I start to progress here, like maybe by the time I'm 28, 29 years old, I'll end up getting some super nice car, really nice place to live. At this point, I'm still just grinding, keeping the expenses low. I'm seeing things pay off, but I'm not ready to cash out yet, but not by any stretch, you know? And it's just because now it's like, it's easier now, truthfully, because it was hard to tell myself this in my early 20s, and this is why I'm passing this on to you guys now, is like, when you're in that phase, it's like you have no evidence that things are working out yet. And so you feel this huge desire to impress people and to look like you're ahead because you want to validate yourself because you feel kind of insecure a bit because nothing's really working out. Now that I'm at the point where things are starting to work out, I have more patience. But when you're in that spot, you just got to understand it's like, listen, just view your 20s and just sacrifice them for the rest of your life. And if you're in the gym, getting your body right, getting your nutrition right, working on your career, working on your skill sets, becoming a high-level man, it's like the gap gets so big because most people aren't doing that shit. As soon as people leave high school, they never read a book again. They watch Netflix, get drunk, get in debt. That's their life, right? So don't use your 20s as this time to goof off. That's what society will tell you to do. But where do normal people end up? Not where you want to be, or you wouldn't be watching this video. You know what I'm saying? So don't don't make your 20s your priority in the sense of like living it up, right? Have some fun here and there, but at the end of the day, it needs to be all about focus, hard work, grinding, building your character, becoming the kind of man that you need to be. Like I said, you are new to being an adult in your early 20s. You are not a complete product yet. You're not a finished product. You need to put in the work on yourself, and it takes a long time. You're like a sculptor chiseling away at a block of marble in your early 20s, and eventually you start to see the shape of the thing take form, but it takes a long time, and you have to stay focused. Now, guys, before we get onto this one, I did want to mention that my new school community, the LifeMaxed group, is live. We've got some great guys in there already making huge progress. If you're somebody out there who wants to live an outlier 1% kind of life, you want to get in great shape, do well with the ladies, have a career that you're passionate about instead of working some 9 to 5, you want to make great money, be connected to guys who are doing the same kind of thing as you and have that same mindset, then this group is for you. Click the link in the description box to learn more and join us, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the inside. Number 6, you can doubt yourself and still succeed. The amount of energy I used to put into trying to feel confident about things before I would take action was enormous. I wasted so much time. I'd be like, I got to get myself into the right state. Again, I was listening to all this bullshit law of attraction manifestation crap. And so I would get all caught up on this stuff, and I'd spend all this time like, I don't feel right, therefore something bad's gonna happen. I took my thoughts and my emotions incredibly seriously. But now at this point, I'll just look back and be like, I was really confident in that situation and things still didn't work out right. And then in another situation, I was really not confident and things worked the way I wanted them to. And so we are so blinded by our emotions and our thoughts that we just lose touch with reality. We think because we feel bad about something, therefore it's going to go bad, but it doesn't necessarily go that way. And so you doubting yourself has nothing to do with outcomes. And by the way, confidence comes from evidence. And so like if you're starting a business for the first time, why would you be confident? To have doubt would be normal. There's nothing wrong with you. This is, again, like the internet will try and convince you there's something wrong with you for feeling doubt. Everybody feels doubt. And so just accept, like, okay, I feel some doubt, but that doesn't mean anything. Just take action. Use your rational mind that God gave you and sit down and make an actual plan. Be like, okay, does my plan make sense rationally? Yes, it does. Okay, execute. My thoughts are irrational. And just go do it. Don't wait around. Don't spend all this energy trying to feel confident. Just go make yourself confident by proving it to yourself through action. Number 7, there's a mile-long pile of shit you have to eat, and nobody is going to do it for you. This is about just the sheer volume of crap that you have to get through as a guy when you want to accomplish something. You'll look up and just be like, okay, everything's fucked. Like, that's basically the reality of your early 20s. Like, everything's fucked. I'm in debt for college maybe, or maybe I'm just unattractive. I'm broke. I feel like a failure. Like, everything's a wreck. And you want to look for all this stuff that can solve it. Like, again, this is when you get into your feelings. This is when you start talking a lot instead of acting. And it's just like you get down to it every time and you're like, there is just this gigantic pile of shit I have to do, and nobody's going to do it for me. And I just have to get through it. It's this mile-long pile of shit. Seriously, it's like you want to get in shape, and you're out of shape, and you look, and you're like, fuck, I'm eating like crap. I don't exercise. I look bad. And you're just like, I have to go do the thing over and over again to get in shape. But it's like, not only do I have to work out every day and make this a part of my life, I also have to clean up my diet, but also I don't even know how to do that. And so you got to go find out how to do it, make mistakes, fix the mistakes, figure it out, and keep taking action without losing your confidence and you're being disheartened and giving up. And so it's just this pile of shit. And it's so frustrating. It'll be like that with content for this kind of thing. It's like, I see the direction my channel's heading in. Views have been going up. Things are looking pretty good. The new school community that we've got so far, everybody's getting a lot of value out of that. I feel really strong about that. But it's like I look and I'm like, for me to get where I want to get, it still requires my channel to like 10x. I have to 10x my channel to get where I really want to be here. And I look and I'm like, well, how do I do that? And I'm like, I think I know how, but I don't know exactly. I'm like, I think I just need to post more stuff that is tailored to the right kind of person who wants to hear this message and title it well, package it well, do it well, connect really well with you guys. And over time, eventually enough videos will hit that the floor will rise and I'll start getting the kind of views I need and the channel will grow to the point. But it's like, I don't know that. And I also know it's like, that means I have to basically just sit here, stay focused, and grind for the next, year. I need to put out like 3 videos a week for the next year while working another career, while trying to maintain a life. And it's just like over and over again. And it's like, also, there's no guarantee. I could get there and have wasted all this time. You know what I'm saying? And this is just the harsh truth that it's very difficult to confront. And because of that, we avoid it. But if you avoid it, you can't fix the problem. You have to just confront the pile of shit. Just look at it right in the face. Be like, my life is fucked. And if I don't just sit here and deal with it and get through it day by day, minute by minute, just put in the work and just understanding, that moment where you're like, I know I have to do this, and it's so much easier to avoid it. But when you just stop avoiding it and be like, I'm going to do this. This is it. I'm going to make all of this stuff happen. I'm going to become attractive. It's like with women, they'll do it. It's like, I'm going to go watch another video. It's like the video's not going to get you a girl. You got to go out and talk to them. You got to go out and make yourself attractive. You got to figure out how to be a socially confident guy. You got to make yourself attractive. And then you look at that pile of shit and you're like, fuck me. All of this shit I have to do. And it's just overwhelming. And it's this just like, I mean, I get emotional thinking about it. Dead ass, guys. Like, it is so brutal. And you guys know what I'm talking about with this, I'm sure, because you just look at it, but you have to just confront it. Be like, fuck, I have to do it. And you get through it, and eventually the pile of shit starts clearing up. And then you get to the other side, and you get this moment where you're like, ah, I accomplished it. And then you get through it, and now all of a sudden another pile of shit appears. Because it's like the next goal happens. And you can't talk about it, you got to do it. And you just got to take action again, and nobody's coming to save you. This is the brutal reality, but you got to accept it, embrace it, get through it. It'll toughen your mind, and you'll become the kind of man you want to be by going through it. Number 8, just because it hasn't worked yet doesn't mean that it won't work. So this is something that, we're so used to instant gratification and quick feedback that we feel like if something isn't immediately working for us, then we are doing something wrong. But this just isn't the case. It takes like 30 days of hard work in the gym to start noticing changes on your body. And, in my career, right? So as a real estate agent, when I got back into the real estate industry a little over a year ago, like a year and a half, 2 years ago or so, I knew I was going to do social media to like get business. And I understand social media marketing. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to post on Instagram and this is how I'm going to get business. And I had a good strategy. I posted on Instagram every day for 4 months and got no business. And finally, in that 4th month, somebody reached out and wanted to buy a house. And now it's like I get 1 or 2 deals a month from my Instagram for real estate. But if I had just quit at month 3 and been like, this shit's not working, I need to try something else, then none of that would have ever happened. And so just understand, like, you have to, it's a lesson in trusting your own brain. A lot of us, we doubt ourselves so much that when things aren't working, we just pivot over and over again. You need to trust logic. And logic isn't perfect, but logic's better than your emotions. And you're feeling confident one minute and then doubting yourself the next means you're never going to get anywhere. You need a logical plan. And so my logical plan with real estate, for example, was I know that if I speak directly to my target audience through Instagram by posting daily about stuff that people in my local area care about related to real estate, doing home tours, neighborhood tours, stuff to do with buying a home or selling a home, local news stories, if I post that stuff over and over again, then enough people will be interested in that. They will follow me, and they will eventually want to do a deal with me because they'll think of me when they want to do real estate. It's a very logical strategy, and it was actually a good strategy, but had I let my emotions control me, I never would have stuck with it. And so this is a lesson in trusting the process by trusting yourself. You're never going to make it in life if you can't trust yourself, because you have to trust your own rational thinking. And just be like, okay, like, I know I don't feel like it's working right now, but just trust the process. This will work. And just keep doing it. If I have a bomb video that doesn't get many views, it's like all of a sudden I feel doubt. But I have to be like, nope, trust the process. We'll figure it out. We'll get through it. In 2 weeks, this will be gone, and you'll have a great video, and you'll have forgotten about it. Just got to understand that, guys. That's the wave of life. And if you cannot trust yourself, you're never going to succeed. Number 9, no woman is the one. Romantic love should not be a life goal for men. So this is a pretty harsh one for a lot of guys, I'm sure. But the amount of time I spent thinking I was missing something because I didn't have this fairy tale love story, and thinking that that was somehow a missing piece, And a lot of guys feel this where like they're lacking something because they don't have this, but this is all just bullshit from society. I don't think that romantic love is something men should be aiming for. If you get it, cool. But the reason you shouldn't be aiming for it is one, women don't even find it attractive when you're in love with them. Like, just watch it. I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to this. You get all emotional and moved off center because you're feeling something for her, and all of a sudden the shit test starts. She starts disrespecting you. You become a doormat. It happens very quickly. They actually like the guy better who does not get caught up in that bullshit. They like the guy who says he loves them, but he's so deadpan about it and non emotional that they can't even tell if he means it. And that's actually like rational masculine love rather than the emotional feminine love. But I think this lesson really is about giving my younger self and giving all of you permission to not see this as a goal, whereas society frames it as the most important goal, getting a partner, a romantic partner. But 50% of marriages end in divorce. So I mean, it's clearly doesn't even make sense. All the people buying into the fairy tale, half of them don't work out. So it doesn't make any sense. And then what about of the 50% who stick together, they only stick together because of the kids, or they stick together because, they're just afraid to be alone. And then of those people also, how many of them had to go through one of them cheated on the other one? It's just stupid. It's dumb. I think romantic love is better suited for women than it is for men. It's like the proper dynamic is for a woman to be like in love with her Prince Charming. And he's like out conquering life and he's like kind of the main character and she's in his world and she's really absorbed in that and she can be feminine and you're the grounded masculine guy, but you've got bigger priorities. The thing about having a good relationship with a woman is you have to prioritize other things over her or she can't respect you. Because if you make her the top priority, you're basically saying she's more valuable than you and your future. And so this is really just a lesson for all of you out there of like, stop making this important to you. The more that I just don't give a fuck, the easier this gets. Seriously. The more that I'm like, hey, I got my priorities, I got my goals, like they find that attractive. When they see you going in a direction, they're like, oh, this guy's going somewhere and he doesn't care if I go with him or not. He's not going to change directions for me. It's very attractive to them. They actually want the guy who doesn't try to be attractive to them. It's like you're just focused on being the best you can be across the board, and they find that attractive because you're like good with yourself. You're grounded in who you are. All this shit about like I need to get a woman. I need to display my attractiveness to her. I need to do all these things. It's a waste of time, guys. Seriously. At this point, I barely will even start a conversation with a woman. Like I will, but it's like I almost have to like they have to very plainly show me they were interested because I'm just not gonna bother. It's just like all this nonsense, like thinking there's this one woman out there, I gotta talk to her. It's like, dude, there are 3.5 billion women on the planet. Just go do your shit, and enough of them will jump in front of you if you're an attractive guy. And it all comes down to this mindset of thinking like one girl, Kayla or Stacy or Tracy or Becky or whoever the fuck that you're in love with or were in love with. You think that girl's different. She's not, okay? They're all the same. On a deep level, every man is basically the same. Every woman's basically the same. Sure, it manifests in different ways based on culture and personalities. But like at the core, women want the same thing out of a man. Men want the same thing out of a woman for the most part. And so you got to just stop acting like this one is different. You get what I'm saying? Human nature is human nature. And if you're caught up in this romantic fairy tale thinking you got to find your one soulmate, you're going to be disappointed. You're putting way too much pressure on another human being to solve your problems in life. So the solution to all of that is chase excellence and women will chase you. And I know guys get tired of hearing that, but it's just the truth. Number 10, no one cares. This is a lesson about talking about your problems. This is going to be a harsh truth for a lot of guys, but just nobody gives a fuck about your problems. They just don't. And truthfully, you don't give a fuck about anybody else's problems. You know what I'm saying? If I told you guys, like, let's say that I had a product that you guys were paying. Let's say you're in my school community. You're in the school community, and let's say that I have a bad month financially. Right? And I'm just like, okay, like suddenly I'm in a bad spot. And I just go tell the school community guys, I'm like, hey, by the way, I'm not going to give you guys what I promised you. I'm not going to do the group calls this month just because I'm having a bad month, right? You'd be like, well, I paid for this. So like, why are you not doing it, right? Or if I came and said, hey, listen, my real estate business isn't doing well, so I'm going to charge you guys double this month. You'd be like, I don't give a fuck how your real estate business is doing. We had an agreement here. You get what I'm saying? This is how it is. Women don't care that you had a bad day. Nobody cares if you didn't sleep good. Nobody cares if you're sick. You just got to get it done. And this is a harsh truth. And this is why I don't talk about shit in my life really with people anymore. I don't talk about the highs or the lows. I just keep it to myself. This is, the harsh truth about being the alpha is like everything is put on your back. The buck stops with you. Beta male kind of guys, they get to whimper and moan and expect somebody to solve their problems. Women can do that type of shit, but the buck stops with the alpha. And that's part of it's like the responsibility that comes with the privilege of being the man. Is like the buck stops with you. You're the one who has to solve shit. You cannot have problems. As an entrepreneur, you cannot have problems. Nobody cares. No, your family does not care. If you had children, your children don't care if you're stressed out about work when you get home and you're a dick to them. Your wife doesn't care. Your girlfriend doesn't care. People are just all selfish. And they empathize with you on the surface, but deep down they just want you to deal with your shit, especially if you're the alpha male. No one cares. And so, I will go on a trip, and I talk about it on the channel here, but like in my day-to-day life, I go on a trip somewhere, I come back, I don't mention it to anybody. If you don't ask me how it went, I won't even tell you I went. I don't care. No one cares. Everybody's caught up in their own life. And on the flip side, I don't tell you when it's bad either. I don't tell you the highs, the lows. It's just nobody cares. Seriously. It's just expected. It comes with the territory of being the man, is that you do cool shit, nobody cares, it's just whatever, and you deal with pain and hardship, and nobody cares. It's just the buck stops with you, and it's a harsh truth that you gotta confront. Number 11, people will judge you, and that's okay. So, I got a lot of hate in my early 20s. In fact, I still get hate from people at this point, where like, from people who are on the normal life path and they're judging, especially like people from high school who will just like weirdly stalk you when you're like doing something different with life because I think you threaten them because they know they're wasting their life, something like that. But I've told this story before. I was like 23 years old and I hadn't talked to people from my high school since I graduated high school. And randomly one night, I get put in this group chat with like 10 people I went to high school with, and they all just start belittling me and mocking me for my YouTube channel, for, goals I'd had, for all kinds of stuff. Like, they'd been stalking me clearly, and now they were just decided they were going to try and gang up and try and tear me down and make me feel bad about myself. And it didn't help that I was in a bad spot. I was flat broke. I felt like a failure at the time. And so it did bother me for a bit, but I also was just like, you know what, fuck it, who cares, right? Because on some level, like, you got to understand people are reacting to you based on how they feel. And so part of being great is that you're going to come with judgment. There's just no way around it. And I just kind of had to accept that at this point because I still get people who like make comments or do this or that, and it's just, you got to understand it comes with the territory if you want something good out of life, if you want to be exceptional, if you want to accomplish a goal, if you want to stand out, if you want to be attractive to women, it comes with judgment, right? The guy who women like is the guy who has like, a unique masculine persona, right? You're walking around, you got the tank top on, or you got the loud car, or you got all these kinds of things. You're like an archetypal man, sunglasses on, leather jacket, like certain things, a suit on. The average person wears a fucking t-shirt and looks like shit. If you're in great shape, rocking a suit, rocking a tank top, people say shit. They judge you, and you got to learn to be okay with that. Judgment is the price of doing business if you want to be great. Number 12, life is war. You cannot return to your mother's womb. So what do I mean by this? Well, I think there's this notion that a lot of us have where we think that we just have to deal with all this shit and then someday it will stop. And it's just like someday we get to go back to this sort of like paradisal state where we don't have to worry about things anymore. Like, if I just get enough money, then all of a sudden I don't have to work hard. If I can just be attractive enough to a woman, then I can go back to being this like soft little guy and being romantic, mushy kind of shit. I don't have to keep being the hard alpha male. If I can, just get in shape, then I can stop working out so much. Like, we have this thing, and, I say mother's womb because, as children, our mother like inculcates us from the stresses of life, right? And I think deep down in a lot of men, it's a boyish trait, is this desire to return to our mother's womb, metaphorically. We want that feeling. And this is what a lot of like nice guys deal with women, is they're looking for their girlfriend to replace their mother because they still haven't developed as men. And you got to just understand it doesn't end. There is no dollar amount where all of a sudden there's no stress and problems in your life. There's no point where you get so attractive that you don't have to carry yourself like an attractive man to women, right? people get cheated on who are attractive guys all the time. You'll see like NFL stars having these issues, getting dumped. NBA players, same shit. Elon Musk has had like 4 or 5 wives, girlfriends. Jeff Bezos has been divorced, right? There's no point where this stops. And, the more money you get, the more problems you have. That's the saying, right? So just understand you got to just get this out of your head, this notion that at some point you get to kick back and relax and all the pain and stress of life is gone. Life is war. Every day is war. Everything is a challenge. And you can wish it wasn't that way, but the better thing is for me, the more I accept that, the happier I get. I'm happy to fight. I'm happy that there's things for me to do. I'm happy that I always have something to challenge myself with. And if you can just accept it and embrace it and work on it, you just get stronger every time you push forward. And all of a sudden this stuff gets to where it's like it just doesn't bother you. And I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, life's war. I don't expect it to be better. I know that once I have millions of dollars in the bank, there's going to be new problems set. Business is doing well, that's a different problem. Pain is just like, pain is a sign you're alive, right? If you're doing bad in life, there's going to be pain. If you're in stasis, there's going to be pain. If you're doing great in life, there's going to be pain as well because people are going to come after you, right? The guy at the top of the mountain is the one everyone's trying to take down. So pain, war, that's life. You never get to return to your mother's womb. You're not a child anymore, and you got to get that out of your head. And I struggle with this a lot, like in my early 20s, wishing I could just go back to this thing. Like, oh, if I can just do this, then everything will be okay. And then I can just like breathe this sigh of relief and all of life's okay and safe and all this. It just doesn't go that way. And the more you want that, the weaker you get because you just start running from the reality of life. If you can just embrace the brutality that is real life, you get stronger and you get to where you can handle it. And then life actually gets a lot more fun because you got better rather than wishing the world would get easier. Number 13, the more you are challenged, the stronger you will become. So this kind of ties into the one we just discussed, but understanding like challenge is the path. And so stop looking for ease, stop looking for comfort. It really is, it's like, I've accomplished at this point some of my goals I've had in life. I've hit targets, hit things that was like, wow, that's awesome. First time I got a 5-figure month. Then I doubled that. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Like I'm making all this money. And it's like the high of hitting this lasts for like a couple days. And then it becomes the new standard. And then you're just like, oh, okay, whatever. And you keep going. And so the point of that is like the goal, I think Alex Hormozy said, you've already achieved goals you said would make you happy. And that's so true because we've already achieved something at this point that we wanted, and now we're back to being dissatisfied. And so the point is not to achieve goals. Goals are there simply so you have something to do while you're here on this earth. It's all about the self-improvement of the process, and you only improve through struggle and pain. This is why you work out, you got to break down your muscle so it can grow back stronger. Life is like that, One of the highs of my life was living in a garage in the summer of Houston, Texas, and being flat broke and stressed and worried and wondering like what the heck happened to my life. I had dropped out. I'd quit my job, moved across the country to Houston, Texas, starting this business. Things were working okay at first, but I just didn't make enough money. I had a few people cancel and their clients I had cancel. Suddenly I have no money and I'm homeless. I end up living in my friend's garage for a month and a half in the Houston summer. It's 85 degrees, roaches on the floor. I'm sleeping on this cot with this metal bar down the middle of it, so I can barely sleep. But it's like I look back on that, I'm like, that was awesome. Seriously. It's like cool in this weird way. It just builds your character, hardens your mind. It's like the fear of the thing is a lot worse than the actual thing. It's like, oh, I got to do this thing. But if you're just like, okay, fuck yeah, we got to do this, like all of a sudden it gets better. It's just your reaction that's the problem to this stuff. It's not the actual thing. You can handle a lot more than you think you can. You're a lot tougher, a lot more capable than you realize. And if you can understand that and embrace the fact that like challenges make you better, then you develop this mindset that looks for challenges and rises to the occasion. And then you get to become stronger. So if you are dealing with challenges, just tell yourself, be like, good, because this is what's going to make me stronger. And it's become a cool story you're going to tell someday. It's like all of these pains you go through in life, they end up being these little stories you tell. And that's also a good mental frame. If you feel like you've been going through hell for a while, it's like, I look back on ages 22 to 25, maybe even 26, and I'm like, that was one big block of shit. Like, it feels like it was all hell the whole time. It feels like it was all hell. But now it's just like a couple stories I tell. And so if you're going through shit, just understand, be like, okay, like looking back, this will just be a story I tell. This is really not as bad as I think. And just take it day by day and get through it and get better. And suddenly, it's not like the world gets easier. It's just you're so much stronger that you can handle it better. This ties into number 14, which is don't wish things were easier, wish you were better. So I used to spend a lot of time wishing that things just would work out. I'd be like, I'd make a YouTube video and I'd be like, it's going to get 100,000 views. And I'd tell myself that. And it's just like, then it wouldn't get 100,000 views. And I'd have to sit there and feel all sad when in reality, it's like, maybe I should have just been like, listen, you're clearly not good enough at this. And, I did this with like sales stuff as well. Like in real estate, I go do these listing presentations and things like that. So I'm trying to sell somebody's house. And I would be afraid that somebody was going to give me an objection. And so I would just try and positive self-talk myself out of it. I'd be like, oh, they're just going to love me. It's going to go great. And I just delude myself. And then you show up, somebody has an objection, you don't know how to handle it. So just stop looking around and wishing things would be easier. Stop wishing the girl would just like you. Stop wishing that the business would be easy to build. Stop wishing that a body wasn't hard to get, right? Like, you just got to understand, because the world's not going to get easier for you. You just have to get better. And if you can flip the mindset and stop feeling entitled to ease and looking at the world to change and change yourself, then all of a sudden you get better. So going back to my listing presentation story, once I finally was like, okay, I got to confront the fact that these objections are going to happen. I got to stop running from them. I got to stop being afraid of it. And so I went and looked online and found objection handling scripts for each objection that I would deal with in real estate. And then I would take these scripts, I would practice them a ton, and then I would go on a presentation, and now I felt confident. I was like, please, give me an objection. I'm ready. It's like you're excited for the challenge now. It's like a video game, Like, do you want to stay on easy mode the whole time? Eventually you move to medium, then hard, then like expert. Like, you want it to be a challenge that you can handle. And so you have to get better so that you can face these challenges. Number 15, the path of the exceptional man is to be an exception. That means people will never understand. So this is just like, it's permission for everybody to be not normal. I think a lot of people are like trying to have one foot in the normal life and one foot out of it, and this just doesn't work. So like if you're trying to build a business, but then you've also got your friends who want you to go out drinking, it's like, well, they're not building a business. So like you can't do what they're doing. And you have to understand that if you want something different out of life, you have to be willing to be different. If you're committed to being normal and getting exceptional results, that's just stupid. Seriously. Because again, we go back to what I've said already, is like actions are all that matter. You just have to take action. And so this is really just about understanding that you're going to have to walk this lonely path as you become exceptional. And you have to be willing to give up a lot of these things, give up these people that are in your life, all that kind of stuff. And just like understand, like, yes, the fact that I am different is a sign that I'm on the right track. It's a leading indicator that you're going to get a different result in life. By acting different, of course, you're going to get different results. It just makes sense, okay? And so giving yourself permission to be different like this, and understanding that comes with the territory of being an exceptional person, it's an important thing to understand. And basically the way this works when you accept this is you're like, okay, I got to fully commit to a life path that I want to be on. I got to get off the fence here. I got to stop trying to have one foot in the normal life, one foot on this 1% self-improvement life. I got to get all in on this path. All of a sudden you're going to be alone for a while. And you're going to walk that path until you've reached a point where you have improved enough that other people on the journey start coming around you. And all of a sudden you start finding your friend group and all these people connect, and suddenly girls are interested in you, and suddenly everybody looks up to you because you've made something of yourself. And you just have to understand, I got to walk this path alone for a while until I get the reinforcements around. Number 16, hard times will happen regardless. All you can do is act in a way that you can look back on them with pride. So you're going to have to eat shit in life. You're going to deal with challenges. You're going to deal with stuff. And I remember during COVID hits, I had just started a new job and I was like feeling good. I went on this date with this girl. I thought everything was going great. COVID hits. I get a call from my boss and he says, hey, we got to lay you off because of COVID and we don't know what's going to happen. And so like immediately I'm fired. I thought things were finally looking up in my life. Yes, I've got this job. I got this girl. Everything's going great. I get laid off from the job. The girl doesn't even want to talk to me at this point because of I'm an unemployed loser at this point. So within a moment, everything crashes down. Career falls apart that I had. Well, I thought it fell apart, right? The job I had didn't work out. Girl leaves me. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And I'm just so proud of how I handled this situation, because whereas the average person during COVID gained 27 pounds and was living in fear, I was like, fuck this shit. Like, I wouldn't wear a mask. I went out, I worked out on the turf field because my gym was closed, did all this stuff. I started this YouTube channel during that time. I worked on self-improvement. I read books. I got better during a time when everybody else was falling apart. And I kept my head about me, despite the fact that I got dealt a bad hand in that. That was nothing I could have done about it. And I'm proud of myself for that. And it becomes this thing I can look back on and be like, I know who I am because of how I handled this hard time. And you don't know who you are until you have to deal with a challenge. And then you find out who you are and what you're made of. And so this is just this, it's actually something to be thankful for when the hard times happen, because it gives you a chance to show yourself that you are who you say you are. And understanding this, if you're going through a hard time or something happens to you, you're going to have to look back and explain your behavior in these situations. And if you let it destroy you, girl dumps you and suddenly you spiral into a pothead doing drugs and quitting his job and shit, it's like you got to answer to that for your future self. Versus girl dumps you, you go get in the gym, you get in better shape, get a hotter girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? It's like one of those two guys is going to feel good about themselves, the other one's going to feel like a loser. And this is just how it is in everything, right? You don't get hired for a job. You can whine about it or you can get better. And you just want to constantly live in a way that in retrospect you can look back and be like, I am who I say I am, because my actions prove that I am that guy. Number 17, no one cares where you're at 23. So I remember at 23 years old, I was working at a UPS store making $15 an hour. My career had not worked out to this point. And I just felt like a failure. I was living with my parents. I just felt like a total loser. And I thought everybody was watching me, and I thought everything was done for me, and I thought I was so far behind. But now looking back, I'm like, yeah, I was 23. The fuck, like, you're just figuring shit out at 23. You don't know what the hell you're doing, right? It's just like the lumps. You're a beginner in the game of life still. And also, nobody even cared. Nobody even remembers where I was at the time. Nobody knows any of this shit. Like, people, like, have very vague ideas about what you're doing with your life from stuff they saw on Facebook 5 years ago. Nobody actually knows what you're up to. Nobody actually cares. And it's just a good thing to remind yourself, is be like, if you're in the shit right now, it's like nobody gives a fuck. And, like, seriously, I just remind myself when I think about showing off now, I just tell myself, nobody's going to care if I had a Corvette at 27. If I have to, like, sell it at 28 because I can't actually afford it, right? So just play the game smart, because at 30, no one's going to remember where I was at 27. So just play it smart and then ball out for the rest of your life. Do it for you. Stop trying to worry about what other people think of you. Number 18, you will grow out of your excuses, which means they were never valid. So this is a really interesting mindset shift for you guys, is understanding that, we have all these excuses that we tell ourselves, but eventually we get to the point where the excuse no longer is acceptable. So when you're sick, you miss school, right? That's your excuse for not showing up. And then you're in your early 20s and you're sick and you call out of work. But then you get to the point where, like me, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm sick, I still have to perform. And so that means being sick was never an excuse. It was never an acceptable excuse, that is. Here's the thing with excuses is that, like, everything that you use as an excuse is invalid. It's just like, ultimately, nothing is an excuse. It's just that you get to pick which ones you're going to allow to stop you from achieving your goals. So, like, let's say, extreme circumstance, your mother dies in a car crash and the funeral's there. And so you have this really big business presentation that you've got going on to close this client and make all this money. But you decide not to go do the business deal and instead go to your mother's funeral. Well, life doesn't care. And this sounds harsh. Nobody's going to judge you for going to your mother's funeral, and I would do the same. But the point is, you don't have to do that. You could still execute. You could still get the deal done. And by not getting the deal done, you're risking losing it for the sake of going to the funeral. And again, I would do the same. But my point with this is to give you an extreme to understand all excuses are ultimately invalid. They're just simply decisions you make, right? They're just there's consequences for actions. And if you choose to use as an excuse, that's your call. But ultimately what I have found is that the further I go, the more I realize all these things I've used as excuses were total BS. Eventually, I stopped using them as excuses. Therefore, there is no such thing as a valid excuse. There's just simply your choice to do something instead of doing what you wanted to do over here. If you go out with friends and they're all eating shitty food, but you're trying to be on a diet, but because they're all eating shitty food, you eat shitty food as well. Well, you use that as an excuse. That's not a valid excuse. You can use it if you want to justify it, but again, there's just consequences for actions. And that's really the point of this one, is understanding that there's no, like, it's all the excuse thing is really just about trying to justify things to other people. Ultimately, you just got to understand that, like, life doesn't care what you choose to do for an excuse. It's just life's going to happen. And if you want to let this thing stop you and use it as an excuse, then fine. If you want to let the fact that all your friends are eating junk food stop you from staying on your diet, fine, do what you want to do, but you won't get the body you want by doing that. And it's just understanding this and realizing, like, just so many things that I thought were excuses. I didn't sleep good last night, therefore I'm having a rough day. I'm emotionally in a bad spot, therefore I'm not going to perform well today. It's just like all these things just stop being excuses. I don't feel confident, therefore I'm not going to take action. That used to be an excuse. Now it's not an excuse. And so that means, okay, whatever I'm using right now as an excuse, in a few years probably won't be an excuse. And so ultimately, this lesson is for all of you out there to say, like, just there's no reason for an excuse. And everybody's grossed out by excuses anyways. You didn't get it done, just say, no, I didn't get it done. It's like I had this guy send me a message on Instagram. I was collecting founding members for my school community at the time, and he wanted to be a member, and he sent me this really stupid message. Like, a lot of these guys, like, they'll just say, hey. They'll send me a DM, and they just say, hey. And so that's what he did. He said, hey. And I responded to him and tried to tell him, because I was just going to be nice. I'm going to be like, listen, dude, I don't normally answer anybody who says hey to me, because you're a fucking retard for sending me hey. Like, I've got shit to do. Do you think I want to talk to some random dude on the internet? Tell me what you want, right? Just send the message. He just said hey. So I told him, I was like, hey, you need to learn to communicate better. I'm only answering this because I assume you're here about the school community. And then he proceeds to give me a bunch of excuses for why he said this. And I just ignored him. I was like, it's just gross. The excuses are fucking gross. I don't want to hear them. Nobody wants to hear them. And so you can have an excuse. I didn't know better, this, that, the third, whatever. Like, but it just doesn't matter. There are no valid excuses. So just be like, okay, accept it, right? You had a business goal that you had in mind, but then you end up getting really sick and not achieving your business goal. Don't tell everybody, I got sick and that's why I didn't get it. Just be like, no, I didn't get it done. Because nobody gives a fuck about the excuse. And ultimately, you could have gotten it done even though you were sick. So you just chose to let the fact that you were sick stop you from getting what you want. Because it's not a valid excuse, because I've worked sick, people work sick all the time. And so this is just a big lesson about just stop with all the excuses. Just understand, like, if I let this thing stop me, then I won't get what I want. But stop looking for validation for the fact that you didn't achieve your goals because you made some excuse up for why it didn't happen. Because it's just gross, it's beta, it's stupid, it's a boyish thing to do. Just stop with it. Number 19, everyone is pretending to be more successful than they are. So I spent a lot of my early 20s feeling like I was falling behind, questioning if I had made the right choices in life, feeling like maybe I should have taken the normal life path. And I look back and I realize everyone was just full of shit. Everyone is just showing the highlight reel on social media, and hell, I do it too, right? I'm not going to show you like the bad day. I'm just going to show you the cool shit I'm up to. So everybody's doing it. And I felt like, I lost my virginity when I was 20 years old, and I felt like I was the only one who was still a virgin at the time. When I look back, I realized like a lot of guys were virgins still. And then, I proceeded to like have, some sexual success in my early 20s, but I felt like I was doing so much worse than every guy. And then I went and found out like the actual statistics on like the sex lives of a normal guy and realized I was actually doing better than average. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So everybody out here is full of shit because every guy acts like he's getting girls left and right. And so people are just bullshitting you, and you got to like just see through it. Every time every time a guy around you is gaslighting like he's getting chicks, just know there's a 95% chance he's lying or he's exaggerating. The guy who has the nice car, I had this happen one time. A guy in my gym came up to me. He saw this thing I posted on Instagram. I posted that quote, trying to impress people is your biggest expense. And he told me, he saw it on Instagram. He said, yo, I relate to that so much because I was in debt paying for these cars that I thought looked cool and I had to sell them. So it's like that. A lot of the people with the cars, like they're in debt. they're not really doing that well. You're like, man, that guy's got the brand new Tesla. Like he must be killing it. No, he's not. He's just got an outrageously expensive car payment. That's it. You know what I'm saying? And nobody cares. So like, it's just dumb. And so just understand that. Don't be fooled by appearances. Just stick to your path and understand that, like, actions. What you're doing now is going to pay off in 6 to 12 months. And so understand, like, okay, that person bought this expensive car. Now they're in debt for it. I'm over here grinding, saving my money, investing in skills so I can get better. I'm going to be ahead of this guy in 6 to 12 months. That's the game. Don't be fooled by appearances. Nobody's out here actually doing that well. Basically, everybody is struggling. Number 20, it's just action. Brutal action. This is going back to this just acceptance of the fact that it's all action and that nothing else matters. Literally nothing else matters. The talking doesn't matter. Your feelings don't matter. The excuses don't matter. It's just action. And the work is just staring at you. And it's like, nobody else is going to do this. It's like, okay, you got an excuse today? Okay, fine. Winning doesn't care. Success doesn't care. No, it's just action. It's just, did you do the workout or not? Did you follow your diet or not? Did you, write the video script or not? Did you go do this thing or not? That's all it is. It's just action. It's just brutal action. And it's just hard to swallow that pill. But it's just like every morning getting up and being like, it's just work. Work, 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 work. And all this talking, all the stuff we do to avoid it, it's just a waste of time. And you can actually get so much done by forcing yourself to just focus on action instead of talk. Because most people are just talking, they're chilling, they're like, do 15 minutes of work and then have a coffee break, all this shit. Like, if you're just like, no, just brute force work, even if you do it for a couple hours, if you tell yourself, I'm going to get up every morning and just do 2 hours of hard work on my goals, you'll get so much further ahead than everybody, because nobody can even do that. And then you just get better and better at it. And you're like, okay, it is all just brutal work. And just swallowing that pill is such a powerful thing to do. It just helps you, deal with reality, because that's all it is. And all the stuff around it is just noises we make with our face. It's just brutal action. And when you can get down to that and just be like, nothing else matters. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to judge anybody else. I'm just going to take action. It's like things start clicking. They really do. And I'm not even great at this. It's a very hard thing to do. Seriously. It's easy to talk about, but like I'm getting better at it. But it's like, I think by the time I'm 30, I'll really have it figured out, and it'll just like, things will happen so fast because I'll just be so focused on action and effective action at that, where I'm doing the right shit and I'm just doing a ton of it. And it's just action, action, action. And shit just starts moving really fast. Number 21, most people are here today and gone tomorrow. So this is about giving you permission to let go of old relationships. I think we feel like this sense like we need to keep people in our lives, like we owe them something, or somehow if we don't keep people around, it's disloyal. But at this point, with how many people I've dealt with who, were friends or sort of friends, and then like now I don't even like, I would feel weird even talking to them because it's been so long since we talked. Social groups I had where people stabbed me in the back. Careers where I left a job and like I was friends with the people, and everybody always says the same thing. They're like, oh yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch. And then you never keep in touch. Once you do that a few times, you get permission to understand like relationships are very transactional. Most of them are in the moment. You'll only have really across the course of your life, you'll have your parents if you're lucky, and you'll have one or two, maybe three friendships that are really like extend across different epochs of your life. Most friends are here for like an era and a phase of your life. You'll have a few that will transcend that, where you've got a bond that allows you to, like, as you both grow in different directions, you still hold this bond together. But it's extremely rare, and you'll know it when you've got it. And I've had like two of those in my life to this point, I think. Maybe even one. I'm not sure. We'll see. But like, it's like, it's just permission to understand that and be like, don't let other people hold you back with this sense. Because like, here's the thing: if you don't leave them, they're gonna leave you. That's another thing I've figured out. This happens with women too. Like, I'll be working on something, I'll feel entitled, like, oh, this girl was into me, I'll be dating her, and she'll be into me, and so I'll feel like, I'm obligated to somehow keep her around. But then it's like, I remember back being a young guy in my early 20s where like I had that mindset, and then she got the upper hand in the relationship. I got a lot more needy, kind of lost my frame, maybe I lost my confidence, and she disposed of me. So like, she didn't feel that same way. And so you understand, like, loyalty is for the moment, it's for convenience with most people. Again, there's a few brothers out there who will really ride for you, but it's very rare. And if you can just accept that, it gives you permission to act in your own best interest and not feel bad about it, because you stop trying to accommodate what everybody else wants from you, because everybody just wants what is best for them, and they want you to act in accordance with that. They want you to fit into the box they want you to be in. And so when you just kind of get to the point where you're like, okay, everything is just mostly transactional. People are doing what's in their best interest, and relationships come and go. You know, like I have, like I said, careers where I had them and I thought I was really bonded to the people, and then it's like a couple years pass, I haven't talked to them. It's not like I wish anything bad on them. If I saw them, I'll be friendly with them, but it's just like, it's all just kind of for the moment. It's just you're along for a ride with people at different phases, and you just got to accept that and let things come and go. And don't be so afraid of like cutting off your shithead friends from college, because eventually one of them is going to get married and he's going to be obsessed with his wife and cut y'all off anyways. So just go ahead and get it over with. It's going to happen no matter what. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.